Now, integrations.
Yes, integrations. Now this part is more like, y'all remember my, 2Ps from the other videos? Well, because compromise happens, they got integrated here, and so it's like how they're different-ish, what things are added in from them growing up in this environment rather than a plain environment. Like, let's start off with the most complicated integrated one, Mundy! Or Siegmund, the 2P Prussia, as you all would know. And if you don't, then how are you on this part and not to watch the other one? Shame on you. But, yeah, Siegmund, oh boy. He was basically created, he crossed over, around the War of the Cities in 1466. A lot of weird stuff happened. Capital moved, Polish did a lot of stuff, Teutonic Knights were definitely a thing. I think they were cast out. So something went wrong. And he was kicked out. And now here he is. He adopted Siegfried around there when he washed ashore from being rebuked as HRE. That's my personal theory, that while the body went to Germany, because, you know, when Germany was born, he already had a teenage body, so it's a lot of there's assumed that he just had HRE's body, so it's just the consciousness of HRE was just cast out so Germany could be replaced in. That's what I think, at least. For this theory, at least. So Siegfried was that, and so he took him in. It was a really pretty high power for the most part. He did pretty well. And then Vanya got into the picture. Oh boy.
Oh, God.
They dated for 100 years. It was interesting. At first he didn't want to, and then it just happened, and it was like, okay, alright. And it was great, and they were in love. But things happened. And then Vanya disappeared. Like, just kind of looked
disappeared
like
off the face of the earth.
And Mundy went nuts. Because it's like, shit, the love of my life is gone. What the fuck? So he was despaired. He tried to keep on working, but he was just so sad. Because, well, I'd be sad if the love of my life vanished.
Me too.
But soon after, guess who comes around to offer a hand, to be the rebound and to make him think less about him?
Hi, Sugar Plum.
Alexander did. And Sigmund's like, fine, I guess. We can give it a shot. Why not? At this point, he's at the part of not wanting to care. It goes so horribly bad. Not in the, oh, it's an abusive relationship, oh, it was really awful. No, he actually had a fun time. But Alexander's, remember, he's manipulative, he's a control freak, and just a lot of small things happened that really messed with his head to make him in the mindset of, I'm just this guy's doll. I'm just a trophy wife, essentially. Which, by the end, Alexander dumped him when Prussia was dissolved. Because he's not a nation anymore. He needs to look after his reputation. He's basically lower than the states. And y'all remember how he sees states, so it's like, oh, great. All of those feelings were a lie, and son of a bitch. So, Mundy pretty much collapsed in on himself after that. From drinking a lot, depression, and not to mention with being dissolved, his body started to retaliate against him. Especially with now being a lot more able to be affected by the elements around him. So he lost his voice, and he lost all feeling in his arm. He has no idea how he lost his arm, by the way. He was drinking so heavily he blacked out, and then when he woke up, it was gone. He has no idea what happened. It could have been amputated by somebody. He could have just done some reckless activity. We have no idea. He doesn't either. If someone helped him out, they wouldn't speak up. So he's just like, okay, this is just part of my life now. So, and he's pretty aware that he has like 100 years left to live. Probably 100, 150, one of those. And so he still remains a depressed alcoholic, because the timeline of Luciano and Siegfried still remains basically the same. That Siegfried leaves with Luciano, and they do very shady shit for other things. So he's just left alone, and he's just left with the mindset that he's just a goddamn useless toy and doesn't have any self-worth. Though, fun fact, he did try to kill himself a few times, and one of them involved jumping into the river. He almost hit the bottom, but Siegfried pulled him out the last second. So he could actually crossed, but nope. That didn't happen. That's the story of Mundy. Do you have anything to add?
I almost want to add in the ribbon story,
Ooh, go for it.
but that might be a little too much considering what I'm
Ribbon
planning.
Story is my favorite.
But the ribbon story is also crucial to what I'm working on right now.
But not everyone who watches this will be watching that.
That's true. Okay, so,
Hooray.
once upon a time, when Vanya and Mundy were just starting to date, they figured they had to kind of do it covertly because, well, England is incredibly nosy, and Oliver will stick his big old nose into anything he can get a hold on, mostly for blackmail material. So they came up with a color-coded ribbon system, starting with a red velvet ribbon, that Vanya bought him to tie his hair back with. Eventually, a very complicated color coding system involving ribbons popped out of it, and it worked fairly well. Getting caught in the closet, notwithstanding. Eventually, after Vanya disappeared, he got rid of all of the other ribbons except for one. Mundy kept the red ribbon. And then, when Alexander started to date him, he kept asking for the ribbon. Mundy refused to. That was one of the few things he had left of the old man. He wasn't going to give it up. And Alexander remembered who gave it to him. So, when Mundy was dissolved as a nation, Alexander tried to take it, because he technically owned that piece of land that, well, Prussia used to live off of when Germany was split apart at the end of the Second World War. Mundy fought him.
He literally just tackled him downstairs to kick his ass to get it back. Or try to. He got arrested.
He got arrested for it. And it dissolved. After being so old and having to go through so much stress, what little thread of nationhood that was keeping it in good shape, as Mundy lost it, so did the ribbon, and it fell apart in his hands one day.
Yep, he did get it back. So he had it a little bit farther, tied his hair up in it every day, and then it dissolved. And it's like, oh. He still keeps a shred of it, though. He got it laminated. One of the parts that's like a decently sized chunk of it. He still keeps it.
It's just one memento left.
Yep. Despair everywhere. Sobs.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to something a bit more feisty. Flavio. He's also part of this world too. He's got a better standing on things.
Woohoo!
He's an agricultural engineer. Like, his lands are really fertile still. Well, compared to everyone else's. And he is really, really fucking smart. Like, think Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. That's the guy. So, he makes things. He creates inventions and machines to help keep things going. So he's actually fairly successful in, farming and stuff. He also does mob work with Luciano and Siegfried. He's more of an informant, though. He doesn't really want to get involved in that sort of thing, but he can track people. He can find blackmail on almost anybody. He makes, mics and tracking devices to put into watches or into seams of clothing so they can be, not even detectable. And he's really good at it. He mostly uses his skills for his own purposes, though. not really for anybody, like for the family business or for the good of mankind. No, it's just always for himself. Like, what can benefit him the most from this? And usually it's a lot of good stuff. Like, good cuts or something, good trades. So I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Though, he doesn't usually talk to people about his engineering or his technology unless they're really close to him. Because people think he's lying, or that he's exaggerating, because of how he looks and how he acts. And so he's just like, okay, fine. If you don't believe me, if you don't want me part of this, fine. Think of me as just being a blonde-haired bimbo. Fine. Be superficial. I don't care. Bye. Also, he made Siegmund's arm, his fake arm. He made that arm. And he constantly works on it to try to, like, get more features on it. To have, like, a heating system in the fingertips so he can use touchscreens. And be able to hide things in it, like a knife or something. He's always working on it, because it's a nice project. He's currently trying to find a way to get an artificial voice, but he's able to get it after some pieces. But no to do. He has a weakness. Flavio's still Flavio. He has a weakness for food, clothing, gemstones, like anything high quality. He just wants it so bad. He's one of the ones who really wants to go to the 1P world because everything is high class, everything is just great, stress-free, clean. That's like, he feels like he deserves to be in that world. He's heard so many stories about it, he just wants to go, he just doesn't know how. Which can be very difficult, because when you think about it, him and Alexander would make a really good power couple. With their agriculture, with how they get things done. Only difference is, Flavio isn't really that much of an asshole. And he has more balls to be like, hey, you, knock it off. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Your car blew up when you were inside it. Oh, no, that's so terrible. Maybe that's an act from God to tell you to knock your shit off. Maybe. You know, God has ears everywhere. You little shit. Love you too. Basically. They'd also be a very dangerous level to getting to Shangri-La, because if they were together, they probably could figure it out.
They're both very, very smart, and they're both very cunning, and they could figure it out if given enough time and resources. They could also cover for each other if need be, because they're both really good liars.
Yep. Though I don't know how Alexander feels about Flavio and the fact of, you know, if he thinks he's superficial or not, if he believes him about, you know, being able to do all the technology. Also, Flavio is practically the only quote-unquote friend left for Sigmund. Like, he's still one of the very few people who call him Siggy, because usually he was called Siggy originally, but when Siegfried came into the picture, everyone started calling him Siggy instead. Only, like, people who, like, really, really were intimate with Siegmund called him Mundy. So, and everyone else just called him Sigmund. So, Flavio still only calls him Siggy, because, you know, that's his old name. And, you know, it shows some sort of friendship. And while he's still not very helpful for his self-esteem at times, he does his best to help. And, you know, again, arm and stuff. And so that might be what was slowing him down for him and Alexander to do anything, because, you know, X that done ruined his life. Sort of. It was a combination of things. Mundy was gonna go nowhere fast.
Though, having Vanya around would probably have cushioned the blow.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the Germanic family, let's get to Siegfried.
Yeah, Siegfried. He's also involved.
That poor puppy.
Yeah.
Basically, he had mob connections with Luciano in order to keep his country relatively wealthy.
Yeah, basically Luciano, like, ran the Italy and Germany. Just kind of had Siegfried there as, you know, bodyguard / guard dog, and they just take on a lot of side missions that are kind of under the table so they can get in extra currency for their country to A, keep their stuff going, B, fund Flavio to keep his stuff going, because whatever Flavio makes is gonna be able to help the both of them. It's all undergrounded whoosh.
You asked me a couple of seconds ago whether Alexander believes that Flavio could do all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he made that tracking device for
Oh,
him
yeah,
and
that's
put it into a
right.
watch.
That's right. Alexander commissions him for tracking devices. So he can figure
He's
out where possessions are.
creepy. He's creepy.
Yup.
And moving on.
Yes.
Because I don't want to talk about Alexander anymore right now.
Now it's Siegfried's turn.
Oh, one guard dog to another. Anyhow, after a long time being stuck in a rut, basically being called nothing but a guard dog, he ran away to the 1P world. I can't remember if he found his way on accident, or if he was going by a rumor and just threw himself in on it.
He and Luciano originally were going by a rumor, so they both know about it, but then they came back because things happened. But Siegfried just kind of knew about it and just like he wanted to go back so bad. He barely got any time there before, so he just bolted for it.
He learned what strawberries tasted like.
And ice cream. And laying on the grass.
Sunshine and water fountains. He was stunned by water fountains when he first arrived.
And dogs! There's so many more breeds of dogs. He was smitten.
He wanted to come back. And he did. He originally made his living just mugging people so he could live the high life like he used to and do whatever he wanted. Because Shangri-La is a party central, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's got a lot of things, and things without guilt, too, so he just taste everything from everywhere, get transportation so he can go more places and look around. And then he made a trip to Russia, and that's where he stayed.
And that's where Vanya caught him. And basically took him in as his ward. Mostly so Mostly so he could chill the fuck out and stop mugging people. Because he forced him to make the vow.
Very intimidatingly.
Yeah, he basically told him if you don't stop your shenanigans, I'm gonna tie concrete to your feet and throw you back in the river.
Not to mention they've kind of had a violent history together before, so
Yeah.
Siegfried knows what he can do. And he's like, oh, okay. Please don't do that again. Especially if I... Oh yeah, and he got the news that they're mortal there.
Siegfried is one of the few people that has seen Vanya's violent side.
Up close and personal, and it was frightening.
Yeah, so he kind of realizes, oh shit, I don't want to do that again. With him being away from Luciano, he started to learn that maybe I'm not just a chew toy.
And he's not all bad, that, you know, because all of his life was being in a rut of murdering people, smuggling items, and that was basically it. And a very webbed experience of bloodletting and BDSM. But being there, he was cut free from that lifestyle, so he was just left to his own devices. And he's like, maybe I am a good person? He stole a dog once, though. That was when he was still getting to abuse. It's like, that's probably something you should not do. Don't steal dogs. And a lot of other things, but... And he's still getting to cope with his own morality system. Not living, but moral compass. Sort of thing. And it's something he still struggles with, but he's figuring out that maybe he's not so bad.
But he's still addicted to that sin.
Yeah.
That Italian sin.
Yeah, sometimes he goes back because he needs Luciano. Like, everyone's like, no, you need to stop it. Like, especially being in the 1P world, he's seeing all of the abusive traits that Luciano has to him. And it's not good. And, you know, he's trying to think, like, oh yeah, that's normal. That's literally normal. We've been doing that for 75 years. That's normal. That's fine. That's just part of how it works. And everyone's like, no. And he's like, yes. So he's had to have a lot of good, long talks with Luciano of, so I don't think I'm happy. Let's figure out how to fix that.
And now he's kind of taken up the same guarding behavior that Vanya has taken upon himself to try and make people, especially other 2Ps, behave in that world.
Because he's pretty much a river magnet. He finds a lot of people when they cross. He doesn't know how, it just randomly happens. So he likes to take tours around rivers a lot more often to see, it's like, okay, who's gonna pop up this time?
You see, it just seems to happen to him a lot.